Okay, the SampleServe platform consists of four basic parts that service individual user types. So the first part is a project planning tool, project management tool here. This is where you're going to set up your project. So you're going to upload your historical data. You're going to upload your sample location information. You're going to actually connect to the laboratory through here. The lab has their own portal, and you'll be able to match and connect to them. You can pull down their sample bottles. Then you're going to set up your sample schedules, what you're going to sample for, where, when you're going to sample. It all gets set up here, and once you have that all set up in here, you're going to hit the Save button. And that is then going to push the scope of work that you developed for that particular sampling project to our mobile field app. The mobile field app is designed to capture all the field data, take photographs, collect GPS. It's also designed to print labels in the field right at the time of sampling. Labels are special QR coded labels. You'll see some examples here shortly. And then you're also going to be able to generate a digital chain of custody. So when you're done sampling for the day, you're going to hit a button. It's going to generate a digital chain of custody. That custody is going to be sent to the laboratory. The lab then is going to be able to pull up that chain of custody through the lab portal that we create for them. They can actually see what's in the chain. When then the samples arrive, they're going to actually use our separate lab mobile app to receive those samples. They can read the QR codes on the bottle labels. You'll see that real easily. And then when the lab is done with the analysis, after they've logged everything in using that lab app, they do the analysis. They're able to upload the data back to the platform, and you're going to be able to then generate, the user is going to be able to generate all the common graphics associated with showing where contaminants are, where they aren't, what direction they're heading, what the concentrations are. They can generate all those common graphics right away. So it's a pretty simple little platform. Now, if you'll notice here, the first three parts of this platform, the project planning tool, the mobile field app, and the lab app, it says no cost. So each one of those are actually available for no charge, and we charge for the graphics. These our first part are available at no cost forever. We're not going to, there's no free trial. You can sign up, keep using them, no cost, and we just charge for the report graphics. So there's a couple of other ways that we monetize the free use here. So in our project planning tool, we've actually got partners with laboratories where we can actually partner with labs and even do a white labeled version of this thing. We're working on a way where we can actually partner with bottle manufacturers and have the bottles shipped directly from the manufacturer to the user, the customer, the end user, and kind of skip that multiple shipping that is required to go to the lab back. We don't have that built yet, but we are looking at monetizing that functionality. And we do have some agreements in place with sample supply and equipment rental companies where because we know about your project, we can tell you how many feet of tubing you need, how many filters you need, whether you're going to need a meter or a pump or maybe both. And you'll be able to order that equipment with one click through our platform, sends the order to the equipment supply rental company, and then they can fulfill the order, and we actually get a percentage of the revenue from that sale through the platform. So that's kind of some channel partners and how we actually monetize the free use of the first part of these things, along with selling our graphics and reports at the end. So here's just kind of another quick illustration of how the data flows through the platform. It goes from the project management tool, data gets put into there. Then you collect it with the mobile field app. You're going to set up your project, push it to the mobile field app, then gets pushed to the laboratory app, into the lab platform, and then they're able to then scan those in, push the lab data back to us, and be able to generate all those graphics. All connected to a secure database. We use Google Cloud Services, so it can be used worldwide. And then we can also connect to other platforms. Right now we can actually push and pull data into Equus very easily. There's some other platforms that we can also develop integrations with as well. So here's just kind of, I'm going to go into each one of these components in just a little bit more depth, not too deep, but just give you a little better overview. So I've kind of outlined, how it works, right, just broadly. The project management tool is actually very simple to use. You can schedule projects years in advance, down to the last minute detail. And the nice thing is when you communicate through the project management tool, you can communicate to the laboratories and to the field technicians kind of simultaneously. So if you change one well, they both know about it automatically, so it saves a lot of time and effort there. You can automate your bottle order, so because we know the scope of work, where you're going to sample for, what you're going to sample for, the lab actually puts in their bottle specs in there. We can automate those bottle orders automatically, so it's a nice little feature there. It's one of the more common things that gets messed up on a project is people forget to order the bottles in a timely fashion. And it's a very detailed scope of work, and you'll see how that works here in a second. So, and then we can actually take all of these forms, and that would normally be digital. We can also replicate those things on paper. We have that functionality, so it's a nice. Some people get a little bit weirded out about going cold turkey on paper, so we create that crutch for them. They can have paper forms and the digital method kind of simultaneously until they're comfortable with the digital method. It's not as big a deal now as people become more and more familiar with the digital processes and more comfortable with them. But in the beginning, a couple of years ago, people were still a little hesitant and felt more comfortable having that paper backup. Again, no charge for this project management tool. So here's just a quick video of the project management tool. Pretty straightforward. It's point and click mostly. You're going to pick the dates you want. You're going to actually use this Manage Test button to pull in the lab's menu. The lab populates this menu themselves. So you pick the lab you want, pick the parameters you want. It knows the bottle types, quantity, sizes, preservatives, everything, because the lab populated it. Pick the parameters you want at which locations. You're going to then, it handles all the QA, QC. You can also do a customized form. So if you want to do a well inspection or some kind of remediation system or any type of checklist you want out there, you can create those custom forms. There is a dashboard as well. You can just see, what's coming up, what you just completed. You can sort alphanumerically by last event, next event, and there's a little bit of a summary of the scope of work there. You can see there's, how many samples there are going to be on each date, how many forms you've created, that kind of stuff. So it's just a quick way to kind of see all your projects, and you can scroll up and down and see them there. And you can create different workspaces and have different projects in different workspaces. So it's a real simple way to organize things. And you invite users up here. So you can invite users at the workspace level or at the project level or both. So the nice thing about our app, when you've got that work scope, you've created it, you've saved it, all you got to do then is log in with the app, Google or Apple, either way. Log in with the app, and it's going to download a summary of all the projects that you have for that you've been invited to. So you won't see them unless you've been invited by the owner or an admin of that project. But you'll see them there. And the nice thing about it is once then you'll download the entire work scope for the one you're going to work on for that day, or maybe there's a couple of them. Download the entire work scope, all the details, and then you're free to work offline. So once you've downloaded that work scope to the device, you're going to be able to go out and do work, take photos, GPS, collect all the field data, everything. It's all going to be stored on the device, print labels using the Bluetooth thermal label printer. And all you have to do to push it back to the cloud is actually just push that, connect to the cloud, connect to the internet, and have the app open, and everything syncs automatically. So it's just very automated. And then, again, Google and Apple versions of this. And again, no charge for the mobile field app. So the mobile field app, one of the nice things about it is you can have multiple people out in the field, and if they're connected to the cloud, they can kind of see what each other is doing automatically. So kind of helps with communication in the field. Again, you have to be connected to the cloud for that to happen. Again, prints the labels in the field right at the time of sampling. There's all kinds of problems with doing pre-printed labels. People grab the wrong label all the time. This has all the stuff printed on the label, makes it very fast and efficient, and avoids any label mix-ups, and it's legible. That's the other nice thing. And then there's a GPS Google Earth type map on the application. You can see where the sample locations are at that you're trying to sample, and you can walk right to it. It'll show you where you're at, so it makes finding sample locations very easy. And then if you've uploaded historical lab data, the app will automatically look back at the last time it was sampled and sort the samples from clean to dirty. It's a proper quality control method to sample from the cleanest locations first to the dirtiest locations last, and so it will automatically sort from clean to dirty. So it saves you that kind of quality control, having to manage that manually. So you can see these listed here. It'll sort them from clean to dirty. You can also resort them alphanumerically as well. And then the project manager can be in the office, and if they're connected to the cloud in the field, they can kind of see that data coming in, see the photographs, all that stuff. So it really allows them to kind of track things and maybe find mistakes or problems before they leave the site. And then, as I said, you can create these custom forms. So if you want to do some other type of activity, just create a form. It gets pushed to the mobile field app, and you can collect those answers and that kind of stuff in the field and make that part of the app record. Here's a quick video of the mobile field app in action. We recommend using stylus, this little rubber end on the bottom of most pens now. Gloves don't work real well on a touchscreen. The labels print in the field right at the time of sampling. So when you're done collecting, you're going to sign your name on the tablet. It actually prints that unique signature on that label. If you've got 4 or 5 bottles you got to fill up, it'll print 4 or 5 labels, whatever you need. Our labels, and then everyone will have the signature. Our labels are unique. You can see that we actually have, it's a 3-part label. It's got 2 QR codes and then the main part with a barcode and all the other information that's typical of a sample lot bottle label. The purpose of the 2 QR codes is one can actually be put on the lid of the bottle. We actually recommend that. And then the other QR code can actually be left at the sample location. So let's say you're doing asbestos, or maybe you're sampling a drum. You can leave that QR code where the sample came from. Later, when they get the sample results, you can actually scan that QR code and pull up the sample results from the laboratory for that particular location. So it makes that going back to the site, figuring out which ones are contaminated or not, a lot simpler for the type of sampling you might need to do that on. And then the field data gets pushed from the mobile device as soon as you're done sampling. You don't have to, but you can share that information both as a CSV file and a PDF. Here's an example of our PDF for low flow sampling. We show the last 3 photographs, typically with that particular form. We have all the US EPA low flow calculations all calculated for you. When you've reached stability, it'll turn green. All your sample equipment information is here, well construction stuff, all that. If needed, what you sampled for, any notes you might have, how many gallons you purged. If you're in Florida, it'll actually show liters because they require everything to be reported in liters. So you can share that data right away from the mobile app. Now, a couple of other key features of our app is this little sync indicator button. It's actually a neat little feature. When you first download the scope of work and the data in the cloud matches perfectly to the data on the app, that arrow will be green. But if you're disconnected from the cloud or you're out in the field sampling, you don't have connectivity, as soon as you start collecting data, that little arrow there will turn yellow. And if it's yellow, it means you have data on your device that does not perfectly match to the data in the cloud. And so you'll need to connect it, just kind of your indication to connect to the cloud. Let it sync automatically, or you can force it to sync right away just by tapping on that green arrow, and it'll tell you that it's syncing and tell you when it's done syncing, and then it'll turn green. So, but if you're connected in the field, it'll flash yellow for a second. Then every time you enter, any kind of value, pH, whatever, depth of water, it will flash kind of yellow as it pushes data to the cloud. It does a check. Does the data in the cloud match the data on the device? If it does perfectly, it'll be green. So you can actually lose the tablet, destroy the tablet. If it had a green arrow before you did, that data is safely tucked away in the cloud, and you can sleep well at night. Another feature we have is our custody button. So you press this custody button, it will generate the chain of custody automatically for that day. So, and there's a whole process what we'll go through here in a little bit later, but there's the custody button. And then that's the sorting from clean to dirty. So if you tap that, you could resort alphanumerically or clean to dirty. And you can see we actually just look back. We don't discriminate from types of contaminant. We look back at all the analysis that was done, total up the contaminant, and then just put that value in there, and then it sorts from clean to dirty. You want to resort, you can actually do alphanumerically. So the mobile application has that built-in low-flow calculator, just kind of summarizing the app. Field data and custom form data can be shared instantly. It's designed to work offline, so you don't need to be connected to the cloud in order for it to work. And then it puts a little green badge on every sample that's completed, so you know which for sure that they've all been done when they all got a green badge. If a well has been compromised or a sample location compromised in some fashion, and you're not able to collect it, it's going to turn red. It'll turn red, and then yellow is when it's in progress, so you'll know that if you're out there with a couple other people and you see one is yellow, it means somebody else already started on it. So those are kind of our color codes for work scope compliance. And then you can actually add new sample locations on the fly as well. So if you're out there and you decide to switch locations, or you're just going to add some new ones, you can do that as well really easily. So here's the heart of our kind of technology, is our digital chain of custody. Our digital chain of custody starts with a 3-part authentication, so we know it's you with certainty. We know it's you because you've logged in with your username and password. Everyone knows never give up your password. You're going to sign your unique signature every time you collect a sample or transfer custody, and you're also going to take a selfie. So we have that 3-part authentication on you. Our patents also include facial recognition and fingerprint and retina scan. We don't use those, but we could if we needed to. We also grab a date and time stamp and a GPS location every time you collect a sample and every time you transfer custody. So here's a video of Jonathan collecting a sample. He's already signed in with his username and password. He signed his name and then took the selfie, and now he just hits complete, and it prints the labels that he needs. With that, we know with certainty the who, the where, and the when of every sample collected. There's no question where every sample came from and who did it. Our digital chain of custody, when it gets shipped, looks like every other chain of custody you've ever seen. We send it both as a CSV file and a PDF. And so that gets sent to the lab and the mobile app, the lab login app. And you can see here, it looks like every other chain of custody you've ever seen, except for a couple of exceptions. It's got all the billing, project management, turnaround time, date and time samples, all that. All how many bottles were for each parameter, just like every other chain you've ever seen, with a couple of exceptions. The first exception is that you can actually read it. So that most chain of custodies are difficult to read because of the penmanship. And then down here we actually break out who collected which samples. So down here you can see a guy named Jake Cato. He collected all these samples, and then Jake gave all those samples to me, and then I took them to the laboratory. That's me right there. Then I took them to the laboratory. That's how these samples got there. There's actually more pages to this chain. I just only used a couple of them. And down here are the samples that I collected, and then I took mine to the lab myself. So what happened is we were both out there sampling. I decided I'm going to be the one taking them to the lab. Jake gave the samples to me, and I took them all to the lab. And then you can see there's a selfie that when we relinquished custody and received custody, and the signature and the date and the timestamp and GPS coordinate of when that happened, when and where. So these should be within a minute of each other, and the GPS should be within feet of one another. So then this is where the lab receives them there. If some other transfers occurred between there, those would be shown in here as well. Again, Google and Apple, and it's free. Now here's our lab login app. The labs love this because between the lab portal and the lab app, they get insight into the project. They see when things are scheduled. They can actually tell when it's in progress. So as soon as you collect that first sample, the lab knows that the project is in progress, so they don't even have to call you up or and then when they hit that chain of custody button, they'll switch to in transit. So they'll know that some samples are coming their way. They can actually open up the chain and actually see if there's a rush or a short hold time or something like that. So they can actually see that chain as soon as you generate it and ship it. And so the digital chain of custody process actually has no paper involved. We do have mechanisms for you to pre-print a blank chain of custody for that project with all the information on it. You just got to write the date and the time, or you can print the custody paper custody after the fact from that PDF and throw that in the cooler. If you absolutely feel like you need that paper chain of custody, the capability is there. But the custody seal that gets printed from the same printer actually acts as our chain of custody. It has a unique QR code. You'll see a video here in a second. And then we also have a separate lab login checklist that the lab can customize. And you'll see some of that on here too. And we can integrate with any LIMS in a system out there. We do that either through an API or JSON file upload or a API. So either way, we can even do a CSV file if the lab wants a CSV file. So right now our sample log app is only available on Google Play. So and that can be downloaded there at no cost. So here's a quick video of our sample log app. There's the custody seal that gets printed from the cooler or from the printer. It's designed to go on the outside of the cooler. You can have as many as you need if you got 3-4 coolers. You simply scan that QR code using the lab login app, the camera on the app, and then it's going to pull up that chain of custody. The lab technician is going to receive that using that same 3-part authentication, username, signature, selfie, and then you can go through the customized checklist, right? The lab creates this checklist, and it can be for groundwater, soil. They can create customized lists for different locations and different media type. And then once that's completed, you'll see these little checklists. All bottles are scanned. And then the lab can actually use the app to scan the QR codes that are on the tops of the bottles. So you don't even have to pull the bottles out of the cooler. Just open the cooler, and if they're all lids up, which they should be, you can actually just scan and receive all those bottles. The software has the inventory of all the bottles it's anticipating, and when you scan those QR codes, you're just confirming that they're all there. Now, when you're done, you can actually share this chain of custody automatically with the customer, and just by clicking this. So within minutes of receiving those samples at the lab, you can have that completed chain of custody back to the client, and they can have that information in hand. So it just makes really, really simple for everyone to see everything. And then they get that copy, that chain of custody, the checklist, everything. Then when the lab is done with the analysis, days or weeks later, they can upload the data back. There's about 19 ways they can upload data. They're all easy to upload data, and drag and drop, or they can email the file to the client. The client can upload it. It's real simple to upload data back to the platform. And then from that point on, it's just point and click generation of all the common graphics associated with sites of contamination. Soil, groundwater, air, you name it. Soil vapor, we don't care what you just got to put a sample in a container and put a label on it. We can compare to different various cleanup criteria. You can even develop for every state and literally most countries out there now. And you can even develop site-specific criteria and compare to that if you want to. And then you can have as many types of graphics to put data on as you want. We don't limit the number of graphics. We got some people that have up to 15 different zones or sites where they're showing stuff on. And then you just save your preferences on how you want each graphic presented, what chemicals, how you want everything. So you just save everything for each graphic. And then next time you come in there and populate new data, all those preferences will be saved, and it's really quick to generate all the common graphics that you want. So just literally you can generate all the typical reports for most sites of contamination in just a matter of minutes. And so the reporting only takes about 1 to 2 hours worth of training. If you have any background in environmental reporting, what graphics should look like, I can train you on this in about 1 to 2 hours. It's actually super simple to learn, very intuitive as well. So here's a quick video on some of the graphics we can do. We can do ice chemical contours on a cross section, groundwater flow maps, ice chemical contours on a flat map, all kinds of data tables comparing to multiple criteria at one time, all kinds of graphs, data box maps, the most popular image out there. And then, as I mentioned earlier, cross-sectional contour maps. We don't do the cross-section yet. We're working on that, but we can put an ice chemical contour on your cross-section. So here's just a quick list of all the different graphics that we can do. We're adding more types of graphics and do no more variations all the time. Software is never done, so we keep adding more and more features. And then if you've got a custom feature that you're interested in, and we have the data, we can likely replicate that custom graphic that you're looking for. So it's just, if we've got the data, you give us an example, we can replicate it. And it's good for all kinds of projects, right? That phase 2 real estate assessment that you need yesterday, we can't get it yesterday, but we can get it out today. So that's the nice thing. If you get the lab data today, you can probably get the report out today too. It's good for soil sampling, soil remediation systems if you want to show where samples came from, soil vapor sampling, surface water sampling, wastewater sampling, sediment sampling, air sampling, even drinking water sampling, and as I showed earlier, asbestos sampling as well. Now, pricing is, as I said earlier, we're giving away a lot of those project tools away for free. The first part, all the data collection part of it is all free. We do charge a small fee for the reporting functionality. So it's the first part is free forever. You don't have to opt in for the reporting. We've got users that don't use the reporting, and that's fine. They can keep using everything else for free. When you do use the reporting, we charge $7 to $12 per sample, depending on volume. So if you got a lot of volume, you'll be at the lower range there. And then unlimited parameters. We don't care if you're testing for 1 chemical or 1,000 chemicals. It's the same price. We don't charge extra for more chemicals. And then all your historical data can be uploaded at no cost. So if you start the project today and you've got 20 years worth of laboratory data, you can upload all 20 years worth of data, and there's no charge for that. We only charge for samples going forward. So you start the project today, everything you do in the future, we're going to charge for if you want the reporting. Okay, you can collect the data for free. We're only going to charge you for sample data that you want reported going forward. And we don't care how many users you have. It's unlimited users. The way we look at it, the more users, likely more samples. So everyone in the company can have an account. And there are no other fees. We don't charge a startup fee. We don't charge a monthly fee, no annual fees. We only charge you when you collect samples. So if you collected 10 samples this month and I told you $10 a sample, you're going to get an invoice for $100. If you didn't collect any last month or the month before, you're not going to get an invoice. And then we bill per project. So when you get our invoices, I'm going to tell you, you did 10 samples on this one, 8 on that one, 5 on that one. And then you're able to pass that cost on, that direct cost for that project onto your customer. So because your invoices are going to detail out what the costs were allocated to each individual project. If we just did a flat monthly invoice, you have a harder time figuring out that cost allocation to your customers. And then we can actually reduce costs on every category of work. So what that means is that ultimately you're saving about 40 to 60% of your costs overall on a typical sampling and reporting project. Save you on project setup, sampling, AutoCAD, graphics, and then mostly on the report preparation, all those graphics. That's where the biggest cost savings is, because we can do it in literally a matter of minutes. And then getting started is pretty simple. We've got a 6-step process. We can do like online training. It takes about 3 to 4 hours to go through the whole training. Or what most people opt into is our online training. We've got video, for each category of the item. It'll literally walk you through how to use the entire software. The videos are between 1 and 4 minutes long for each little type of report or data input section. You just simply watch those videos as you come along and start using that particular feature in the project, and you'll be able to learn how to use it. So it's very simple. Again, each video is 1 to 4 minutes long, so it's very simple. And then that's it. So if you have any questions, you can just literally go right there and to the website. Go to the Play Store, download the app right now. Go to our website, sign up for an account, and get started. Start uploading your data. It's very simple. And we've got a help function. So if you do get in trouble, there's a little icon on the bottom right-hand side. Click that, type in the question. It pings somebody in our company, and they'll get back to you right away, 24 hours a day. So thank you.